citizens of YouTube land.
Hey, I shaped your president and your VP, and we're back with another installment of the month of Halloween horror creature feature edition. This time it's
Lake Placid. Okay, so this is our actual first creature feature, as the previous one we did, Monster House. I don't know if you can count that as a creature feature or not, but here we go.
And we had also done Friday the 13th before that, so I guess technically this is really the first installment, but it's we're back. So
let's call our second installment.
So Lake Placid premiered on July 16th, 1999. It was produced from a budget of anywhere from $27 to $35 million. It made $56.9 million,
Making it
worldwide, making it basically breaking even.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys are all wondering, how does a movie that barely breaks even spawn 3 sequels plus a crossover movie? Well, we're going to tell you.
Didn't it become a cult classic with video rentals?
Yes.
And video sales?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's how.
Oh,
the movie is directed by a horror legend, really. If you guys kind of know his work, we can tell you. The movie is directed by Steve Miner, who was very famous for working in the Friday the 13th franchise, which we had just covered last time. Go back if you haven't checked it out, because it's Friday the 13th Part 6, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Miner is from Friday the 13th Parts 2 and 3, and he also directed Halloween H2O. So with that being said, guys, he knows horror. He knows how to direct people sleeping with the fishes, if you will, because that's how we do things around here. Yet there are hardly nobody sleeping with the fishes in this movie.
Yeah, only 2 to 3 people really sleep with the fishes.
This is true. So the movie stars Bill Pullman, and it's also got Oliver Platt and very young Mariska Hargitay, who was in her second season or first season of SVU at
first
this time.
Season.
So she
didn't SVU premiere fall of that year?
I think so.
1999. So she's not even on SVU yet.
So she's very young, and let's just, we're not going to refer to her as that, or even, we're just going to call her Olivia Benson Gold Digger.
Gold Digger Olivia Benson.
Gold Digger Olivia Benson. Because guys, the movie begins with...
In fact, it does take place in New York. The very first scene does. So.
Yeah, the movie begins with Olivia Benson Gold Digger kind of getting...
Well, actually,
on...
No,
you're right.
The fishing game
It actually begins with a scuba diver who's going to go scuba diving at Black Lake, Maine, with the backwoods redneck sheriff, and that's just what we'll refer to him as. He's backwoods redneck sheriff.
Yeah, so he's tagging beaver, actually.
Yeah. So he goes down there, and there's some thrashing about, and then the scuba diver tries to get up into the boat. Only half of him is gone. So he ends up sleeping with the fishes. Yep. And they recover a tooth. And because they recover the tooth from this body, they send a message to New York that they need somebody to come investigate. And then this is when we meet Bridget Fonda's character, who we're just going to refer to as weird, eccentric paleontologist chick.
Who's, wait, no, we're not going to get to that part yet. All right, continue.
So, weird, eccentric paleontologist chick has a problem with Olivia Benson Gold Digger, because Olivia Benson Gold Digger basically stole her man, who also happened to be eccentric paleontologist boss. And so they ship her off to New York so that they can continue their fleeing behind the scene.
Yeah.
And because of this, she's now headed to New York, now headed to Maine, where she's going to investigate this tooth. And she's a very introverted person, this paleontologist chick is.
And she's very much from New York.
And very withdrawn. and very city girl.
Yeah.
This is very important. Very city girl.
Very city girl. So when she gets there, she meets Bill Pullman's character,
who is we can best describe as backwoods forest ranger.
Hot forest ranger. Don't
Yep.
forget about that.
Hot backwoods forest ranger. So, paleontologist chick and hot backwoods forest ranger, they kind of have a little bit of spiel, and she's like, "Oh, that's a big tooth," and actually, it may be from a crocodile, and oh, well, how'd they get there? Well, they could swim, but we'll get to that.
And then, whenever they find out that it might be a crocodile, we then get introduced to Hector.
Oliver Platt, who we could also best describe as rich crocodile cult worshiper.
Yep, because he thinks that the crocodiles are godly.
But guys, the absolute best character in this entire movie is played by the one, the only, the legend herself,
Betty White, and we're just only going to refer to her as Betty White.
Yep, there's no other descriptions. It's just Betty White. So, paleontologist chick and hot forest ranger guy and backwoods redneck sheriff and weird eccentric crocodile cult worshiper, they all have to kind of track down the crocodile. And their investigation leads them to Betty White. And so we have several moments of close calls between the crocodile and the crew, and there really isn't a lot that goes on, but there's some absolutely hilarious dialogue from one Betty White, because it turns out that she had actually been keeping this croc as a pet. It like swam there when it was a baby, and her and her husband had followed her husband home from a fishing trip. And one day, her husband kind of slept with the fishes too.
Yeah,
and she didn't really see a reason to waste a meal for the crocs. So
no, what actually happened was one of the horses got out.
Yeah,
and her husband was trying to get the horse back, and then the croc was just like numb
and got him. So yeah.
And then she's like, "Come on, if I were to report it, you guys would have tried to go track him and hunt him down, you know." And it's like this. And
they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna kill it.
And
we're gonna make it sleep with the fishes."
And then
she says this lie. She says, "Well, you better be glad that I'm not a man, because if I was, I would tell you to beep it."
See, this is where I'd say this is where I'd say if I had a male part, this is where I'd tell you to suck it.
Yeah. Hilarious. So later they're trying
to find that line, guys. I'll put it in the video, but if not, you're just gonna have to.
So later they're trying to catch the crocodile, and she tells Betty White tells the deputy.
She's like, "I hope the crocodile wins. I hope it eats all of your friends. Is that against the law? Wishing somebody gets eaten by a crocodile?" He's like, "Honestly, ma'am, I don't know."
She's like, "Well, I kind of hope it is." Because they had showed the scene where Betty White just takes the cow and she just slaps the cow on the rear, and the cow moseys on down to the lake. And that's where they got the evidence that the crocodile was being fed by Betty White. And they're like, "Oh, we got to catch him." And weird, eccentric crocodile cult worshiper also keeps trying to hook up with hot deputy chick.
I forgot she was the character until you just mentioned that. Hot deputy chick.
And hot deputy chick kind of gets really concerned for eccentric crocodile cult worshiper, and she
probably because she may find him hot as well.
So he is like landing the helicopter right on the water where the crocodile is, and the deputy's like, "This is insane. I'll have relations with you if we just take the helicopter back up." And that's a no-sell for the crocodile cult worshiper, because he really believes that they are, in fact, gods. And they're like, we can't kill it. Well, yes, we can, because it has, in fact, made several people sleep with the fishes around here. And they're like, oh, well, let's just trank it. Well, we got to have a lot of trank to be able to do that. So they come up with this scheme. They come up with this plan. And the crocodile kind of gets wedged in the helicopter that I was just mentioning about. And they kind of shoot it up with tranks. And then that's where basically we get the final sleep with the fishes. And it's not a human.
It's a crocodile.
Because as it turns out, there were two of them. And because there were two of them, the ending scene is Betty White kind of just with her toes in the water, and she's throwing out little bits of food, and we see the little baby crocodiles. So that's
we can't also forget. We also can't forget another classic line from Betty White, where she's like, "Come on, nobody's lived on this lake for years. In fact, it's actually his lake now."
Yeah, that's kind of from the trailer, and yeah, it pretty much was. So for quality's sake, we will say, or I will say for sure, that Lake Placid, the original, is by far, production-wise, way better. However, probably actually for entertainment value, the sequels are better because you get a little bit of flesh, if you will, because it's a horror film. So, yeah, you don't get that in the first movie, and there's very little foul language, really, in the first movie.
No, there's a lot, and that's how it gets its R rating.
Yeah, that too. And then we have a little bit, but it's actually pretty bloodless overall. I mean, but okay. So final rating for Lake Placid, 3.5 out of 5. What say you?
I'm gonna give it a solid 3 out of 5. It's average.
Yeah, it's not the worst in the world, especially as far as creature features go, but it's certainly not the best either.
And we're about to cover the best one.
I will also give the movie props for one other thing. They did something very solid. I think they kind of took it from the next movie we're going to cover. They told but didn't show the crocodile that much.
And that's something you really got to commend them for.
Because it could have been very easy to show it, and then it would have shown how fake the crocodile kind of looked.
Yeah, because the crocodile is actually all CGI, and when and you can't really tell it's CGI until like it shows the crocodile, and you're like, yeah, that's a CGI crocodile.
So I mean, I give them props for that. Like I said, a final total combined score, 3.25 out of 5. But of course, if you've seen Lake Placid and you believe that it is the worst creature feature of all time, then clearly you have not seen
Lake Placid versus Anaconda.
Okay, we'll go there with it, but I don't know if that's true or not, but it works for the joke. But hey, as always, guys, just remember, we're just two idiots with a webcam. Our opinions do not matter, except they actually do, because we have a YouTube show, except they actually don't. So, having said all that, guys, there's only one thing left to say, and that is, well, there's two things left to say, and that is, first up, next time, Jaws.
Second, yeah, he's right there.
Yeah.
Bruce the Shark.
Secondly, there's only one thing left to say after that, and that, of course, is...
We're also covering Cujo as well.
Yeah, but that's after Jaws. Yeah. We'll mention that in Jaws, too. But there's only one thing left to say, and that is...
Peace and love from Jenny and Son. Bye!